2,000 years ago, the ancient Greek had a word for the person who steered the ship. Kybernetes, captain, the one in control, the one who holds responsibility. From this word, Kybernetes, comes cyber. So cyber means control. But today we live in a digital world where most people do not have control, where many leaders and executives do not take enough responsibility and let their ship just sail along until it gets attacked by the pirates or lured into a presumably safe harbor, or which turns out to be not that safe, or gets hit by a salty typhoon and eventually sinks. I've seen many CEOs close to tears with their hands shaking in fear and despair because all the IT systems were crippled and their data was gone. So today I'd like to share with you some of my learnings that shaped my thinking and guide me today when I work as an incident responder and as an IT infrastructure advisor for some large global corporations and governments. When I was 9 years old, an elderly lady from the neighborhood, deeply devoted to astrology, tarot cards, and all kinds of mystical beliefs, handed me a book one day. A book about the stars and the planets. Her plan was simple. Get me to memorize the planets and the constellations and then help her to create horoscopes and predict the future. But instead of joining her in superstition, I fell in love with astronomy and science. Because the universe isn't governed by magic, it is governed by rules that can be understood. And what you can understand, you can control. So I went to the library, hoping to dive deeper, only to be told I was too young to borrow the real science books from the adult section. Just like that, access to knowledge denied. A stark reminder of how information often is kept as a form of power, reserved only for those who are privileged to have it. But I was persistent enough, and finally they made an exception for me. Also, there was another place to learn from. Star Trek: The Next Generation, with Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Oh, I admired him so much, I even adopted his hairstyle. Yeah. Or his hairstyle adopted me. Yeah. Anyways, Star Trek presented an optimistic future, a utopia where people from different planets work together and use technology with wisdom to explore strange new worlds. Their mission was to gain knowledge and not material wealth, and to make progress as a human species. At that time, I also started to build telescopes, spent my pocket money on electronics parts to put together my first own digital camera, at a time when everybody was still using film cameras. With the borrowed login credentials from my maths teacher, I sneaked into the university's computer lab and downloaded for hours and hours many megabytes of data from the Hubble Space Telescopes on the very early internet. Later, I wrote software to analyze gravitational lenses in galaxies far, far away. And everything was possible thanks to free and open source software kindly provided by the friendly scientists at the university. And with some schoolmates, we even founded our own Linux user group and building and hacking all kinds of systems. Oh yeah, those were the days. When I was eventually awarded the first prize in the Bavarian Student Research Competition, the Prime Minister himself congratulated all the winners as the brightest minds of our generation, the experts who will shape our country's future, and all that kind of things politicians like to say. So at the ceremony I told him, as you called us the experts, here is some expert advice. You should really use GNU Linux and open source software. It's far better and 100 times more secure than the crappy and proprietary stuff you made yourself dependent on. Public money must mean public code. He acted interested and remarked that it was an excellent idea to follow up on. But obviously his words were not his actions. I got ignored and that was it. Looking back, I can now say he got hacked. Not his computer, if he even used one, but his brain got hacked by powerful lobbyists and slick salespeople with their empty promises of a silver bullet solution, tricking into buying flawed and vulnerable black boxes that wasted taxpayers' money and trapped the country in a costly vendor lock-in. Captain Picard would have never allowed such a thing. Cyber attacks do not only attack our IT systems, but also our brains. They manipulate trust, emotion, fear, and urgency. Your password was changed. Click here to reset. Your account is suspended. Use recovery keys now. You received an urgent message. Open this file immediately, and so on and so on. Of course, this process is fully automated and within a worldwide ecosystem producing annual revenues of more than $1 trillion every year for organized crime. Most attacks start with data breaches, which expose personal data that criminals later use for phishing. Fortunately, in the European Union, data protection is a fundamental human right. This is why personal data must be safeguarded, not only against criminal organizations, but also against powerful and data-hungry companies that seek to exploit and monetize our data, and with it, our future. Cybersecurity is not primarily a technical issue, it's a human one. On a daily basis, companies get infiltrated and their data exfiltrated, sometimes over many years without anyone noticing. The best cyber attacks are the ones that nobody notices. At the same time, people are surrendering to surveillance capitalism, getting tricked into choosing dangerous hardware and malicious software that hurts them. Unfortunately, many companies have outsourced their IT departments, and therefore they have no required manpower and no know-how anymore, and are just at the mercy of big tech, who are dictating prices, ignoring the laws, and continuously are becoming too big to jail. So how can we get out of this? The key is education. Running open source software that you can understand, modify, share, and collaborate globally is the first step to true cybersecurity. If you cannot read the source code yourself, you can learn it or ask somebody who does. Like asking a lawyer to explain a contract to you. Why do you think that companies do not provide their source code? Do you think it's too genius or too secret? Or could it be that they don't want to show it to their customers because they might find out how crappy and full of bugs it is? If software is closed source, anyways, this should be always very suspicious and must be a red flag when it comes to cybersecurity. But frankly, who still runs software on their own computers? Today, of course, everything is in the cloud. Unfortunately, large tech companies have thousands of the best security engineers. So certainly, everything is under control, right? Wrong. Just look at the recent data breaches and global disasters in the cloud, striking millions of machines worldwide. Putting everything in the cloud is like putting all eggs in one basket. Building a big monoculture, a huge and juicy target for organized crime and authoritarian regimes. A single point of failure. You should always ask yourself, who can access my data? Where is it stored? Which laws apply? What happens if the network is down, or even worse, if the cloud provider's master keys get stolen? That happened recently. But on the other hand, big tech companies have world-famous brands, highly trained sales engineers, and colorful logos. So what can possibly go wrong? And if something goes wrong, there's the perfect solution. Just blame it all on the AI. Some people use operating systems that are not only black boxes, but also have the maximum compatibility with malware. Everybody knows that such systems are not secure and get easily infected. But instead of choosing more secure operating systems or reducing attack surface by removing unnecessary code, many organizations do just the opposite. They keep adding and adding more tools. Security software, premium antivirus, Platinum Edition, a next generation firewall with deep packet inspection, managed endpoint security, detection and response, and all kinds of snake oil products. Now, snake oil is what we call tools that promise 100% protection and effortless security. Great marketing, bold claims, but unfortunately, no real substance. In fact, these products don't just waste your money, they introduce new vulnerabilities and create new attack vectors. Truth to be told, in order to work properly, most security software needs to have full system access. But their inner workings are unknown, secret, and mysterious, like magic. But hey, what can possibly go wrong? Security is not a product that you can buy. Security is the result of right decisions. Decisions that require the courage to say no when everybody around you is saying, but this is a standard software. Come on, everybody is using that app. Or, look, this cloud service is so convenient and even free of charge. So first of all, if you don't pay with your money, you will always pay with your data. And secondly, most people are just lazy or too busy with other things. So they will always come up with some excuses for not making the right decisions. It takes courage and effort to point out risks and to find better solutions. Every meaningful control system, from aviation to medicine or finance, depends on the ability to say, stop, this is dangerous. In my view, the main problem with cybersecurity is the fact that the correlation times are too long for us humans. For example, if you burn your hand, it hurts. You immediately know that you did something wrong. But if your account gets hacked, this is not so clear. The cause might be a mistake that you or somebody else made many years ago and that bites you now. Cyber means control. Cyber means responsibility. And cybersecurity starts in your mind. So here again, my expert advice. Use only systems that you can understand and control. Be critical. Ask questions. Always check and verify. It is your job to decide and to choose to steer your ship. Yes, it requires discipline and mental strength. It requires effort. But I promise you, it's worth it. Don't be that person believing in horoscopes, blindly trusting in bold claims, or hoping for miracles. No. Be the one in control of your future. Thank you.